and welcome. You're watching the Week in Review. I'm your host, Ade Darami, and as ever, we have a special guest, and this week is no exception, rather. A colleague, friend, and journalist here at QTV, Babuka C. Babuka, welcome to the program.
Thank you very much, Mr. Darami. I'm happy to be on the Week in Review and looking forward to an exciting one.
Good, we certainly hope so. And now, if any viewers are tuning in for the first time, this is how it works. We go through 10 stories that have been really interesting or big stories that I particularly like from the week just gone, and we go into some detail in discussing them. So let's get cracking straight away. This story caused a lot of discussion in local newspapers and on social media, and it was about the intentions of a sitting member of the National Assembly. Have a look at this.
Honorable Alaji Sow said the development projects under President Barra's government are not political and discriminatory. The comments by the GDC lawmaker has left many speculating that Sow is on his way to joining the NPP. But he was quick to mention that it will be difficult to take any decision immediately as he needs to consult his constituents and family. He pleads for time to complete his consultation.
There you heard it. He's going to consult. Babuka, we heard lots of people who have already defected to the NPP. As far as I can remember, I don't think they've actually officially launched. We know they're registered, but I don't think NPP has officially launched, and yet already people are defecting. But this particular one caused a lot of speculation. What was your own view of what you heard and saw?
Well, before going to my own view, I think if I was, a GDC sympathizer, I'll be scared.
Sure.
I'll be scared. Because,
and why would that be?
Yeah, because looking into what has been happening since the elections that happened in Jimara the last time,
sure.
The victory that the NPP got, and as you rightly mentioned, this is a party that have not even officially registered yet,
yes.
and we've seen defections happening.
Yes.
It's been happening from different parties,
sure.
but I think the most touched one, is the GDC
because of the high level
the
of
high
some
level
of the defectors.
Exactly, the defectors. These are sitting names that we're talking about, and here we have seen a name saying, "I'm going to consult my family members." I was like, really? But it's not good news for the GDC. Sure. And NPP, I think they've started at the right footing, I will call it. This is a party that says it will officially be launched, in the new year. Yeah. And they haven't done that yet, and we've seen a lot of defects things happening. But it's scary, for a GDC sympathizer. But 2021 is just at the corner. It will be, a year that Gambia will definitely remember.
Indeed. but did it surprise you that he made such an announcement, not that he was defecting, but that he was actually thinking of consulting, and he made it in such a public place? Was that good or bad?
To me, it's good, it's bad. It's good in the sense that, the way he said it, we are ready to work with any sitting president that is ready to bring in developments. Development in what context? So if it's the street lights or the bridges, I'm not sure. But yeah, I think we should be supporting any sitting president that comes in, and we know that he's ready to work to take the country to the next level. That's one. But in the avenue of where he stated it, after what just happened some weeks ago, it's definitely, to me, if you look at it, I was like, okay, when he goes consult the people that he needs to consult, when he comes back, I won't be surprised to hear him say, I'm moving to the NPP. Sure. I would definitely not be surprised.
Right. You've made a valid point there about the fact that many of them who've come out and said they are supporting the president's party, they're doing so because they think that he's leading on the kind of path to progress, and they can point to lots and lots of projects that are going around. So with that in mind, do you expect to see many more defections from other parties?
There will be a lot of surprises, I can tell you this. I cannot point out party A or B, but there will be a lot of surprises going into the 2021 elections. As I said earlier, this is a party that have not really, even officially registered yet, and we've seen a lot of dramas happening.
They're registered, but they're not launched.
Launched yet, sorry, and I want to say launch, and we are seeing a lot of dramas happening, in their favor. So I'm just looking forward to the launching of the party, and going into, and campaigns have not even yet opened. Many will say no, they're already campaigning. When it's the people's store, but that's the some of the positives that the incumbent can benefit. But
you took the words right out of my mouth about the benefits of incumbency. The fact is, the president is mandated by the Constitution to do this. But he can also use it as an opportunity to actually go around and say, look what I've done in my time in office so far. And
this is exactly what is happening. And this is why many will tell you, many political pundits will tell you, it's a campaign rather than meet the people's store to hear from them. Actually, the purpose of the store was to go around, listen to people, yes, obviously you will campaign about the developments that you've brought forward, but people also have other areas of concerns that they need to relate to you so that you can go with your ministers, you know, in a tour that almost all ministers and PS have left, you know, leaving, you know, the quadrangle empty, you know, but yeah, as you rightly said, you know, this is some of the things that they can benefit from it. I see it as a political campaign, you know, that, you know, and this is why these cross carpetings are happening. Almost every meeting venue that you go to, there are cross carpets. So that's an advantage that he has, but as I said, after the launch of the party, before campaign opens, there will be a lot of drama happening in this country, you know, with people's movement from party A to party B.
Thank you. On that point, a lot of drama. And to be fair, I have to say that from what we've covered so far, at almost every meeting, people have come up with their concerns. It's not just been a kind of, you know, covert party political broadcast. Now on to our next subject, again something much talked about, and this is the draft constitution. They went around the world, came back, it was kicked out. But some people are not giving up just yet. Have a look at this clip.
Honorable members, you may note that the proposed statement of the application of the applicant was subjected to a previous application by the Honorable Member for Serakunda, which was dated 14 December 2020. Based on aforementioned reasons, under Clause 53D, based on aforementioned reason, and Clause 51(3)D, the application for leave is here not granted.
Application for leave is here not granted. I was trying to remember all those clauses, 53D and 51D and etc., etc. But in short and in layman's terms, the member who tried to bring it was Halifa Saleh, and it was rejected. From your own view as a journalist, we've all been looking at the constitutional sort of debate that's been going on. Why do you think they did not take up the opportunity either for the Speaker to grant and for other members to push for him to be granted that leave to bring it?
Well, honestly, Mr. Drame, I think the issue of this, you know, CRC process, you know, coming to the tail end, you know, half of the nation expecting it to be passed and rejected, you know, without, on my own point of view, I would say without any concrete basis. And this was the best opportunity to, you know, I remember the word that was used the last time was it wasn't dead. It went on coma.
That's right.
You know,
and I think that came from the Ministry of Justice.
Justice, you know, it should be revived. This is the best time to revive, because if I want to add 1+1, you know, thinking about this rejection that was made a few days ago, you know, hours later, I heard an ex-president is coming to the country to meet the president, some other political stakeholders to see how best. It doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense to me. I think this was I think we can fight our own cause. You know, we are very mature in what we do political-wise. You know, it doesn't really need to bring in somebody outside to come and, you know, solve this. It wasn't something big that needed all of that. I think this was the best opportunity for it to get back to the National Assembly, you know, look into it again, you know, and try to pass it. You know, with all the resources, time wasted in this constitution, as you rightly mentioned, going round the wall, you know, all that we got is a rejection without any basic, and now this was an opportunity as the Serakunda parliamentarian came up with the best idea of trying to bring it back to the parliament, but it's been rejected. We have a long way to go, honestly, and we all Gambians agree that the constitution that we have now is not a bad constitution, but there are a lot of changes that needs to be done there, and this was the best time that, you know, we have on a red carpet to just change it, but it's unfortunate. And now, you know, I really don't support the idea of getting someone from outside to come and try to help us. There is no problem.
I don't think anybody invited them. I think they invited themselves.
and we said yes to it.
Well, yes. I mean, they did the same or similar in Sierra Leone when there was also a potential constitutional crisis, not to do with changing the constitution, but I think they want to make themselves relevant, and they're forcing themselves on people. Sierra Leone, the Gambia, who knows, if we probably
Guinea-Bissau. To me, I don't think we have reached that level that, you know, we haven't exhausted all the avenues to, you know, think of inviting or accepting the request of someone from outside to come and help us solve our own, you know, little problem about the constitution. We have gone through the hardest part of it, you know, and that is done. All that we did to do, this is a book that some people said yes, some people said no. Let's get back to the drawing board. Let's, you know, have a roundtable discussion, involve all the stakeholders concerned as far as this constitution, because the constitution is not coming for any sitting president or any political party. It's for the entire country, and it will stay here for decades before the next change will happen. Nobody knows when. You know, we haven't reached that level that we should invite an outsider to come and help us, you know, or accept a request of an outsider to come, you know, and sit us down to say, you do this, you do that, let's do it. Come, it's really embarrassing to me as a Gambian, and honestly, as I said again, I don't think we have reached that level to accept invitation from another person.
Just in closing, before we move on to the next story, do you think that part of the reason it failed was because they were trying to change the whole constitution rather than amend specific bits of the constitution? You know, you hear the Americans talk about the Fifth Amendment, the First Amendment, and so on. Their constitution has been amended, even though they hold it as almost sacred. But they've amended. But they've amended specific bits of the constitution rather than the constitution in one fell swoop. Was that a mistake, to try and do the whole thing in one go?
To me, going in for the whole changes of the constitution was a big mistake. I don't think it was necessary. As I said, the 1997 constitution is all not that bad as people portray it. You know, there's some very good part of it. All that you need to do was to adjust, you know, some part of it, which really, to me, doesn't need all that resources that was spent into it to do. But now we've pushed that aside, went into an entire review process and come back to this. You know, now we're in a very funny position of, you know, conflict of interest. You know, people that think it doesn't favor them are pushing an agenda, and people that think it's favorable, I mean, so honestly, the idea of changing everything, to me, I didn't support it, but hence it was pushed away. We went into an entire overhaul. I think we can still get back to the drawing board, look into the document again, and still do the amendments. But with the resources pumped into it, you know, it really doesn't make sense to push it aside and continue entirely with the 1997 constitution.
Sure. Thank you on that point. And I have to say, from my own selfish point of view, one of the things that shocked me about the new draft was how little it said about the role of the army. I think 2 sentences only. So whilst the 97 one went into some detail, although we know that it wasn't necessarily respected. But thank you for that, Babukar. And now on to the next one. And this one is more than about just the particular story that we're going to look into, because there's a lot that is riding on what we're going to see here. Have a look at this clip.
We can be able to make Janjanbureh lively if we invest in developing the infrastructure. And that infrastructure also includes what the young people want. Because for far long, we've all been crying that we have not had enough infrastructure in our regions. Now, when it comes to sports, it's one area that has not been developed. We can never be able to excel in sports unless we are able to have the right infrastructure in place. The right infrastructure means that if you go across the country, not only in the greater Banjul area, but everywhere you go across the country, you will be able to see a standard football field, a standard basketball field, a standard volleyball field, and where possible, a running track.
And there you heard that explanation by the new minister, youth minister. And I must be very predictable, because one of our colleagues, Choi, said to me, I'm sure you're going to have this story on Week in Review. He said, because you've been going on and on about the fact that we need sports facilities across the country. It's something I'm very passionate about. You are also a sports enthusiast. What do you get? What's the sense you get when you see something like this? Well,
I was into some of the sporting groups that you know, and I saw someone that said, you know, the new sports minister Bakari Baji, you know, is a stadium sports minister. You know, I was laughing. Yeah. But honestly, this is good news, Mr. Ade. This is what we've been lacking since independence. You know, we need to. We always want to get the results without going to the roots. Yes. You know, to start.
We don't spend enough at the roots level.
All that we do is, you know, take out millions, pump it in the national team. I want to get the results, I want to qualify to the African Nations, or want to win a gold medal in the Olympics. Sure. It doesn't work that way. It needs to start at the grassroots level. And at the grassroots level right now, it's very poor because the structures are not there. Yeah. You know, football is beyond Banjul and Serakunda.
Indeed.
You know, and if you look into our better stadiums, perhaps maybe we have now one thanks to FIFA at Jarasoma, but all the other infrastructures are within the combo areas here. And which would make life difficult for people in the length and breadth of the country to enjoy what everybody should enjoy.
Sure.
You know, so to have the share of the cake, this is what we need to do. We need to have stadiums in all the regions of the country. And I'm talking about standard stadium. I'm very happy that the minister, this is I think the 4th or 5th stadium that they are launching since coming in, in the office, which is good. But I just want to flag up something quickly to say, football, yes, but football is not only all the sports in the country here.
But to be fair, I mean, when they mention in this particular report, they mention things like basketball courts,
and
tennis, and track.
I want to emphasize on that because when you look into the recent glories that we captured in volleyball, in athletics, if we give them this opportunity, seriously, little or no support almost. Yeah. So they should bear in mind. I am very happy that all these stadiums being built, they are at least considering other, sporting activities to be around it, make it as a multi-purpose center that is not only going to be football. I know football, it's what 90% of the youths play, but in order to encourage them to venture into different sports, you need to give them the infrastructure. And with this, I just hope with the 6 months that they're saying before the end of or mid next year, we'll start having you to use all these stadiums, and it will definitely move our sport to the next level. We cannot go behind it. You cannot jump through the window. It just has to be through the right door, and the right door is having the infrastructures in place. Then give the the youths, the chance to showcase their talents. And again, we will come to that later. But after building the stadiums, one thing also we have a problem in the country is maintaining them. And I hope this will not be the case this time. We will not spend millions and just let it, destroy after 2-3 years. But it's a really, as a fan of decentralization, I just cannot wait to go attend the opening ceremonies of this stadium.
Thank you for that. And he and I are both big fans of decentralization. And that particular one we will be following because the contractor gave a promise that within 6 months they would have completed it. And we will follow it, I trust. We will follow it. So thanks again for that. And now on to something completely different, a donation to the prison service. Have a look at this clip.
The donation is part of the response to the ongoing reform process in the Gambia Prison Service. The modern equipment is expected to promote hygienic conditions in which meals are prepared as well as provide access to healthy and nutritious meal for the detainees, and to create a green and conducive environment for both detainees and the prison personnel. The equipment will impact positively on the health of the detainees, promote a hygienic and conducive environment through the prevention of the use of firewood, which is detrimental to health.
Now, just before we came on air, Babukar and I were discussing this particular story because I said to him that, I've been, I've been to a few prisons, not as an inmate, but as a journalist in various African countries. And generally, people are sent there as punishment. There's very little rehabilitation, and the conditions are atrocious. Something like this, are we seeing a change in mindset that people aren't sent there to be punished, but possibly to rehabilitate them, or am I expecting too much?
Last week I was in the prisons before the story came, where I went there to, with the British High Commissioner, and where they were training, some inmates that were making some face masks for themselves, teaching them how to sew it in machines and stuff. So I think this is right move in the right direction. Don't forget I've been at the TRC for almost 1 year now, and all that you hear from former inmates, prison wardens, is the food, the condition. And you'll agree with me that the purpose of prison is to rehabilitate people. But as you rightly should be, but you'll agree with me that in Africa it's unfortunate, as you rightly mentioned. But I think with the Gambia, I heard the last time the British High Commissioner, the newly appointed, when saying, and he's been to different prisons in Africa, but what he's seen in the Gambia, I think he was quite impressed with what he saw. And I think this is the move in the right direction in trying to, people that you kept there for years, months, decades, there's at least they should be useful when they could go out. It's unfortunate that this was not happening, but with this, with the coming of these trainings, I'm very happy with this. Electric cookers, because they will tell you, the pap, the other food, it's like that. The way they cook it is like that. So with this, I think exactly, and you'll see some of them being taken. Those on the hard labels will have to be taken for miles or kilometers to go fetch firewoods to come. So I think all of this will soon be a thing of the past. It's a right thing to do, and I'm also saying that, government alone cannot do it. We have to agree. So partners are coming into support. And, one thing definitely that should concern every Gambian or the government should be the prison. Because if you hear the narrations going on at the TRRC, you'll definitely know that the prison needs to be rehabilitated, not only with the inmates, even with the facilities and structures that are there. And this is a very good example.
Thank you for that, Babukar. And, it's a cliche that, if you put people in terrible conditions, you don't rehabilitate them, you don't train them. Why are you surprised they re-offend when they come out? Yeah. So a good sign. But now we're going to take a quick commercial break, and when we come back, we'll have 3 more stories. So don't go away. Join us after this break. Hello and welcome back. You're watching the Week in Review. I'm your host, Adi Darami, and my very, very special guest is Babukar C, one of our journalists here at QTV. Now, Babukar, we were discussing prison service and so on. Let's go on to something completely different, which is about government information officers, something I feel very strongly about. But let's have a look at this clip, and then when we come back, I'll tell you why I feel strongly about this. Have a look.
I want to say that the government of the Gambia is indeed very committed to the principles of access to information to enhance the development process of this country. You'll all recall that since 2017, a number of initiatives have been taken and are being taken to ensure that we enlarge the broader freedoms, but more so freedom of information.
We heard the minister there, information minister, talking about access to information. Now, the reason I was saying I feel very strongly about this is the Americans kind of led the way with access to information, freedom of information, and then many, many years later they followed in the UK. And I was actually involved in some of the consultation and implementation of the one there, and now it's completely embedded. The reason I kind of pause when I talk about us is that we're building something which is a kind of echo of what they have in America, what they have in England, and what they have throughout Europe. But I don't think we have the infrastructure to support this thing that we're building. Are we just following these things because we think it's something we should be doing?
Well, it's the right thing to do in any democratic dispensation. And as rightly mentioned, access to information have been, what adjective will I use, but very difficult, especially for journalists. I've been in this field for almost a decade, and one thing I will tell you that I think seeing a president is easier than even getting trying to get access to some of the information that you need. I am very pleased with the with the government because they've taken the lead in trying to appoint every ministerial department an information officer. I don't know if information or communication officer is the right word to use, but that's at least someone with a media background, someone that will help, and you can see the changes that have happened. I just have to pick my call and call a particular ministry straight to the information officer. This is what I need. Or when they have some developments, and you can see also trying to sell their agenda and what they are doing on social media, and this has not been happening for decades. And again, when this bill is passed, these are the people again that you'll be contacting if you need before moving to the higher authorities to get information. So it's a move in the right direction. This is if you're not scared of what you're doing, if you're not hiding anything, you shouldn't have a problem with giving access to information that people require, especially the journalists. But as you rightly mentioned, the infrastructures. Are you having the structures to really...
And I would just draw a couple of examples to show you the kind of problems that might be there. You've mentioned sort of information officer. An information officer in a ministry is actually different from the communications officer.
Exactly.
The information officer's job is actually to make sure that all the information that ministry or department has is kept in a particular way, so that if a citizen or somebody asks for rightful access to that information, it can be provided in the right way. I don't see us having that at the moment, whereby, you know, people keep information in a certain way, and when they ask for it, they get it. For example, and I don't want to bore anybody with this, but if a ministry in England, certainly, let me give us an example. Every ministry, if you go on their website, it tells you, if you write a letter to us, a physical letter, we will reply within 3 days. If you send us an email, you will get a reply within 1 day. That is the law. That is the law. And departments that don't do that, they get fined, because there's what you call an information commissioner. And the information commissioner can fine ministries. I mean, can you see that happening here? I'm getting angry about
not
this.
anytime soon. No, not anytime soon.
You know,
honestly, not anytime soon.
Because first of all, we don't have the money to start paying fines of that sort. But also, we don't have the you know, the sort of technical infrastructure to cope with that.
And what we hide is too much, you know. What we hide is too much, you know. Information that sometimes isn't even meant for public consumption, so you'll sit over it. I was laughing at Joe yesterday when he called and he was like, you know, you have to write and you will forward it. I was like, oh my God, you know. So we can't wait for the bill to be passed, you know, and become law. Perhaps it might not happen anytime soon, but this is the right thing to do, honestly, you know.
I agree with you. It's the right thing to do, and let's just make sure we do it the right way. But thank you for that. Now on to something else. An organization decided to look at the government's COVID-19 response, and some of what they found was not very favorable. Check this out.
COVID affected everybody, but it affected women and children the most. I'm sorry, but I'm very passionate about what I'm saying. You had women who were pregnant, who couldn't go to the hospitals, because everybody was afraid and told that you would catch COVID when you get to the hospital. Women already give birth at home, but it increased. Then what did we hear? A lot of death happened.
There you heard the lady saying there about the most vulnerable. I did this story, but I didn't want to be too critical. Because, and I've said this on other programs, I think what COVID brought to us and the world was unprecedented. You could not prepare for something like this. But having said that, you and I have attended seminars, conferences, workshops, where we're talking about marginalized, vulnerable people not being included, not being considered. Should we not have seen that those are some of the people we should be consulting and trying to engage with?
I won't be harsh with the government in the way they approach the support to the relief packages as you put it. But, you know, honestly, when you say marginalized, they've put it in one bracket, you know, and just marginalized. This is everybody. For the marginalized people, bum. You know, and this marginalized we're talking about have not touched the marginalized one, I will call it. As you rightly mentioned, I've attended a lot of programs with this and the survey done. And a lot of people were also, excuse me, and organizations were left behind. You know, people that, you know, are in direct contact with these marginalized people were left behind. It was from the Ministry of Health, bumped rollout, you know, and it went to a moment that most didn't get it, others even relaxed and they were even thinking about it. But, you know, this is something that, you know, never sent a signal that I am coming, prepare for me. It just came bam. That's why I wouldn't blame the government much.
For similar reasons.
Exactly. But again, the way they roll out the relief packages, you know, the support to the marginalized people, you know, wasn't the right way, if you ask me, you know. And as I said again, I won't be harsh on them because it's the first time, but we should be prepared for this. And consultations are always very important. The government alone, as I said, cannot do it alone, but there are partners that you can contact.
Well, that's the point I was going to come to, because there are lots of groups that are supposedly representing these marginalized groups.
The CSOs, let's say, for example.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, the CSOs, let's take an example. If they were engaged, they can take you to the last compound of a marginalized person, you know, to say let's support. But they felt left behind. I've attended most of their forums, and they've said it categorically that the government left them behind, never involved them in the COVID-19 support and how to support these marginalized people during COVID, which I think, honestly, if you look at it also in radio programs, online, on TV, people are saying it. You haven't seen any support.
People calling in.
Exactly. Some people were calling to QTV. Where's the... No, we are not responsible for the funds.
Well,
but
I was going to come to that, because every time we broadcast and said that, you know, support was coming and is coming to this area, we would get people calling us.
Exactly.
And saying, you know, I live in this area, I haven't seen any of it. I mean, the honest opinion, do you get a sense that those criticisms and the lessons have been learned from what's happened? And if you get that sense, what's giving you the sense that we've learned the lessons from it?
I'm not sure we've learned from it. A lot of errors have happened, and I'm not sure we've learned from it. I just hope that the second waves that I'm seeing in other parts of the world doesn't reach us, because the funds are not there. We'll be here begging again, and before we reach that, we just pray that it doesn't arrive here. But this should teach us a lot, One man can't do it alone. Two heads are better than one. Consult. We have experts here. We have people that are in this country that have left this country, went to other areas like war zones and others, help in this kind of work. They were left behind. The CSOs, as I said earlier on, were left behind. So if these people are brought together, the last time when I saw the appointment of the Secretary General of the Red Cross, Senghor, I was like, wow, this is a very experienced person. This is an experienced person in this. He's done it in different countries as a volunteer. In this his own country, it should be like drinking water. But after weeks, I saw him resign. I was like, wow, really? And I think he's one of the most experienced persons in situations like this. But it's rather unfortunate. Consultations are very important. The government should learn from this. Ministry of Health have, a serious headache to take care of this COVID issue. So they should be left to do their work alone and bring in people that know and, have the technical know-how of how to, distribute these funds. But to be honest with you, the funds were not fairly distributed, or they have no knowledge on how to distribute.
Sure. Thanks on that point. Thank you for that. Very, very pungently put. Now on to our third in this segment, an EBA technical working group, ecosystems-based analysis. Have a look at this.
This workshop is particularly very important for the EBA project. We have a mandate not just to restore our community forests or to establish community businesses in community forests or the MPCs, but we have a mandate to actually integrate EBA into policies and strategies, as well as strengthen institutions that will take up EBA even after the project.
Now we talk about the Gambia being a small country and climate change, ecosystems, and being aware of these things. Now I particularly like this because he was training people down to the local level to actually, as they said, things like our forests and so on. We go and you can see a forest where they've decimated it. It's been cut down for firewood. Something like this, going down to kind of grassroots level, a good thing?
This is exactly what we need. As I said earlier on, when we were talking about the football issue, it has to go to the grassroots level. We cannot have PS's ministers coming on seminars, leaving the people that are going daily on the bushes in our forests. These are the people that needs to be trained. Sure. These are the people that needs to be given the technical know how to say, if you do this, it will cause this. As we've seen, we are losing our forests. I'm not even sure we have any now. Deforestation is taking its toll. Fire and other things. You need to train them. What to use, what to apply if you're suspecting ABC. Some of it gives out signs, but if you don't know, a layman in the village will not understand. So they need to be brought forward. Teach, be taught on the mechanism, what to apply, what to do to avoid this, and increase it. It's important. The climate change is taking its toll, and some of it's for our own doing. And we can prevent it. And as we bring in these people, locally, train them, will definitely help.
But it's quite a complex thing, because we saw in the earlier report about the prison. I mean, they're being given these electric cookers, and so they don't have to use firewood. Now, the person who's been supplying them with firewood is saying, they're doing me out of a job, out of an earning. So how do you go about sort of training or retraining that person to find another means of earning a living? Yeah,
but I think the person cutting down those trees, supplying it to the prisons for firewood, is doing it. He's earning a living, but also doing it to the detriment of hundreds of thousands of people. We are crying about climate change. So these are the people that should be also looked into, so they can venture them into other ways, because the electric, gas cooker that will be brought in, can save thousands and millions of trees. So this will not also be left out. If that is what they trade on, that's what they live on. They should be brought forward, to see how best also they can accommodate them in other skills training centers. And I'm very happy with the, the support from partners, like the TechF and others who are trying to give out, support people, not only giving them money to go into business, but also train them into the business that they want to do before giving out them the money. So I'm sure IOM is doing the TechF project and other things. There are a lot of people that are doing things which is, which are detrimental to the livelihood of people living. Those are the people that should be identified now, support them in other areas that would not really affect thousands of people because of the
It's a good point because, the thing you're talking about, training, and we were talking about consultation in another respect, in another story. The people who are going to be affected, we're talking about the COVID relief, the people who are going to be affected were not consulted. Similarly, if you're telling somebody to stop their livelihood, have you consulted with them as well? I mean, I remember 2009, I went to a conference in Sweden, and the presidents of Sierra Leone and Liberia, Koroma and Johnson Sirleaf, were on a platform. And I asked them this question because there was going to be this Gola forest that goes across Sierra Leone and Liberia. And they were going to ban all fishing and hunting within the forest, including the people who lived there. And I said, well, this is their livelihood. Have you thought? They didn't answer my question. I mean, they were both quite angry with me. But to me, I felt there was a big failing that, you had all this money from international partners to kind of make this place a kind of reserve where no hunting and fishing would go on. But you hadn't consulted the people who lived there. And
or provide them with another means of
alternative, and you're going to impose this on them. And so this is my fear for something like this, and that's why I'm pleased about this particular project, because it seems they are going down to that level, and we hope that they are consulting with people, including Mr. and Mrs. Firewood Seller. But thank you for that. We'll take another quick commercial break, and when we come back, we've had 3 more stories. Don't go away. Join us after this break.
December, and QCell is bringing you some amazing offers during this holiday month. You can enjoy a discounted promo on our new MiFi routers for only $2,400 and get 5 gigabytes of data for free. Get the best MiFi router for only $2,400 and connect up to 15 users with the fastest 4G network in the Gambia. So what are you waiting for? Rush now to any QCell customer care outlet and get a 4G MiFi router with 5 gigabytes of data for free, or call our customer care on 111 for info. QCell, Senior Boss. We innovate, others follow.
Hello and welcome back. You're watching QTV, you're watching the Week in Review. I'm your host, Adi Darami, and my special guest this week is Babakar C, one of our journalists here at QTV. We've had 7 stories so far, so if you've missed them, don't worry, you can check it online, and you can join us next week when we'll have 10 more stories. But as I say, 3 more to go this week, and let's crack on with the next one. We hear journalists talk all the time about, I've spoken to people who run Gambian companies, and they're complaining about the fact that they're not getting contracts that are going to others. Somebody's trying to remedy this. Have a look at this.
This will have received the recognition that it deserves. I mean, if you consider the fact that as Gambox, every year we implement projects in the millions of dollars every year, and all of those are implemented by a contractor, and that is just Gambox, not to talk of Minister of Works, not to talk of Minister of Basic Education, or not to talk of Minister of Agriculture and Minister of Health, and all the other sectors. And all of those infrastructure, all of those civil works have been done by a contractor.
Talking about contracts being awarded, and what people didn't see in the wider report that accompanied that clip is the fact that Gambian contractors in construction particularly were saying that they're losing out all the time to these big contracts that are given out. They're going to foreign firms. Before I give you a sort of example of something that happened, I just wonder what your thoughts are on the fact that we hardly ever see these big contracts going to Gambian companies.
Msade, let's embrace our own. You know, if it's like you've been in the UK for decades, you know, having a road project that should be built, and then the UK government will go to a French contractor and come and build us a road. It doesn't happen anywhere now. You know, I will agree the technical know-how, the capacity, the structures, is not 100% with our Gambian contractors, but you know, we have to equip them. We're the one that's supposed to help them, particularly government. Sure. You know, there are a lot of infrastructural developments going on in the country, but you know, in those days, you go, most of these contractors sometimes, you know, surprisingly, sometimes are even from our neighboring countries. Yeah. You know, when our own, you know, we have dozens of contractors here in the country that are left behind. There are changes coming up, and I really love it. I'll give an example before you give me one. Yeah, you know, the OIC. Yeah. You know, the farms are foreign, sure, but you must, you know, have a coalition with a Gambian contractor before the contract will be awarded, and all of you will be vetted, seen, and I love it. And I love it because these are millions of dollars, you know, amount of money to be spent in the infrastructural development of the OIC, you know, 2022, which is the roads, the hotels, and so any foreign farm that is hired, you must have a partnership with a local company. Sure. You know, and I love it. And it's high time that we equip our own companies. You know, they are ours. No matter how bad they are, we're the one that should help them so they can be on top there. And I can't wait to see a Gambian company leaving here to go outside and start working there. Sure. It's not happening because we are not, you know, helping them, equipping them, supporting them with what they need. You know, if you're not supported in your home country, I don't expect a support coming outside. So this is a very good one, you know, that Gambian companies or farms are giving support to make sure that they give. Minister of Basic and Secondary Education, he said, I love it. I went on tour with the minister, and most of all these schools been built are, you know, given to Gambian own farms to do it. And this, which is honestly, you know, I am glad. I'm happy that, you know, we are considering them. The government, you know, or people, relevant authorities are considering them. We should support our own.
Sure. Now, the example I was going to give you is that, and people might call me petty for this, but one of the biggest arguments I've had since I came to the Gambia, we were discussing, as usual, I was complaining about this poor state of the roads. And a friend said to me, oh, you know, don't worry, the Chinese will come and build some nice roads for us. I exploded.
The Chinese.
And you know, we then got into a discussion, and he said to me, you go to the university, he said, you guys covered the convocation last year. He said there were more lawyers than there were civil engineers or people doing architecture. He said this country needs people like that. He said if we don't produce them in the university, how are they going to form companies that are going to build something as basic as our roads? We don't produce enough of them.
Honestly.
Is that part of the problem?
Honestly. That's one, honestly. People are not venturing into these courses. I don't know if it's because they're discouraged or think there's no.
But when they see the money going, you know, abroad,
exactly,
they must think, oh, this is something I should get into.
A good example is what you gave is the roads. You know, most of these roads are built by foreign farms. You know, after 2-3 years, look at what we are going into. You know, and this is one area that really government, I'm sure it's looking into in expanding the roads. The OIC coming as a supplementary support. You know, in the next years to come, I expect to see a lot of development projects coming up from the roads with feeder roads. Sure. Who are these? You know, who are they going to appoint to do these roads for us? Are we going to bring in the same foreign ones that, you know, look at the two-lane roads that they built for us? It's pathetic. You know, you want to have people, peddlers running bicycles, vehicles, you know, donkey carts. You know, it's just unbelievable. I think, as you rightly mentioned, you know, we need more graduates from it. You know, give them the support needed and build us good roads. Roads are the best example that you can give in this country when it comes to, you know, a situation like this, honestly. Because
but how do we get them to kind of, you know, I'm not trying to tell people switch from law, although I dropped out of law school after 2 years because I found it too difficult. But how do we get them to switch from that to something like civil engineering or something that, you know, how do we make it attractive?
The last time I checked, I saw the authorities were trying to convert the GTTI to a university.
That's right, yeah.
I think that is one aspect that we can definitely pump in, you know, invest all the required, you know, knowledge needed and support to make so that we have people. Because there are a lot of youths also going there. You know, recently, the last time I did a story of a woman, you know, doing painting, construction. They come in one after the other. But again, the institution that, you know, should give them this knowledge should be strengthened. Yeah. And I am very happy. I was like, okay, can the GTTI be a university? I was like, yeah, but if you push in, because also don't forget that, you know, there are a lot of countries outside there that wants to bring back our citizens. If you bring them back here, what are they going to do? Sure. First, let us equip. If we can't equip them there, let's equip the institutions that we have here, so that when they come, we won't, you know, have problems with them.
Yeah.
Keep the institutions that we have, the learning institutions, I mean. GDTI is a perfect example. If they really mean their words of turning that place into a university, let them put in the necessary requisite materials and people with knowledge to teach the younger generation coming up so that they can venture into these areas.
I mean, one of the things that surprised me since I came to the Gambia is in the 20 years I've been coming here, I've seen the rise in the number of cars. And I've been actually quite shocked at the few proper garages to fix cars. You just have somebody by the side of the road starts fiddling with and tinkering with your car, and he says that's
honestly,
I mean,
honestly,
but don't people see that if you train properly and you end up equipping yourself with something that's really good and so on, you can make some serious money just because of the sheer number of cars that there are in the country.
You know, I was telling my friends the last time, I think the number of cars parked on the highway for sale is more than the ones we are using inside, and most of these cars are not brand new cars.
No,
you know, they're not brand new. So you expect to use them for a few weeks, months, and they start breaking up. And that's why most of these garages, as you rightly mentioned, are on the highway. They're in fact contributing to the blockage of traffic.
Indeed.
You know, so I think, as you rightly mentioned, if you get the knowledge, you know, venture into it. I mean, the real knowledge, I mean, you can open up proper garages. You need proper garages where you can make money, you know. An example of it is experts. You know, they have some experts that are there that you go and, come on, you know, they'll fix your car and, you know, and it's not, you can't compare it with a garage on the highway. You know, a garage that will need parts and have to, you know, if you don't have it, they order it. You cannot do that from a highway garage.
No, you
know, so it's definitely we have to equip. You know, people also should venture into it. We cannot all be lawyers and journalists. You know, sit in the office. There are better pay outside there with those works that we do than even this work.
Exactly. We hope you're listening. Better pay than being a journalist. Who'd think you'd hear a journalist say that? But it's true. And now on to our next story, the conflict in Ethiopia. This one is turning out to be quite nasty. Have a look at this.
Ethiopia is Africa's second most populous nation, and the conflict has left the country's international allies raising concerns about the possible destabilization of the country. Ethiopia has long been seen as a diplomatic heavyweight in what is a volatile region, and the country commands great respect and admiration for its service in peacekeeping missions in Somalia and South Sudan. The country also plays host to the African Union headquarters. In addition, the country's Prime Minister, Abiy Ahmed, was awarded the Nobel Peace Prize in 2018.
Now, I have to be honest, I deliberately chose that one because it ends with Abiy Ahmed and his Nobel Peace Prize. Now, this is a man who's now sent his army into war within his own country. Babuka, we're seeing more and more of this kind of thing. What's your opinion on the fact that, you know, that he's done this? And also I tweeted about 5-6 weeks ago that perhaps he might consider returning his Nobel Prize, which also was for peace, after all. You
know, when I looked into the menu and I saw the story, I was like, the first thing that came to my mind was the Nobel Peace Prize in 2018. And after what Donald Trump tweeted about, he should have won it instead of Abiy Ahmed. And it's unfortunate. It's rather unfortunate. This is where we have, you know, our headquarters located, you know,
the African
Union headquarters. And, you know, winning that Nobel Peace Prize, and so, you know, the organizers of the Nobel Peace Prize will be like, really, you know, they should not even write to him. He should definitely bring it back. This should not have happened. And looking into the nature in which this conflict started, it's all because of elections. You know, pushing these elections twice, going into COVID, and then pushing it indefinitely. You know, and I think it really doesn't work that way. I am not supporting the conflict that is happening or the rebels. I think there should have been dialogue, you know, continuous dialogue. And I think the international bodies will also not sit and watch this continue. There are thousands of people, you know, being misplaced right now.
And 1.1 million.
You know, exactly. Displaced people. It's definitely wrong. It should not be. And Ethiopia would have been the last African country that respects such things to happen after what they've been through. You know, come back. Ahmed is being praised for stabilizing, bringing in democracy into Ethiopia, and now this because of what? Pushing the elections twice without any genuine reasons. And when we get into COVID, it's like, if you ask me, I would say they've used COVID, you know, as an excuse to push the elections from an indefinite date. Which, honestly, we have moved into, you know, a more civilized Africa, that people would not want to sit down and watch you do some kind of things that are not in line with the constitution. At least, you know, to push it into indefinite, I think, is what brought in this conflict. Is to have at least said after COVID or this, or give a tentative date that people should prepare and something, just to say I've pushed it
indefinite date.
The word indefinite to me is what's triggered this fight.
And now, you know, people will say, gosh, this guy, he's passionate about everything. The next story, I hope every African is passionate about. What am I talking about? Corruption. More specifically, tackling corruption. Have a look at this.
Sierra Leone is offered as an example of a country where political will and international support, combined with digital technology, is bearing fruitful results in their fight against corruption. In Sierra Leone, an anti-corruption commission, ACC, has been established, and government ministers and members of parliament within 3 months of assuming office are required, together with their spouses and children, to declare their assets and liabilities. According to the Dutch Welle article, the ACC recently published the names of officials who failed or refused to comply, along with those to face trial in the anti-corruption court. Former President Ernest Bai Koroma is among those facing a corruption trial.
President Ernest Bai Koroma, and honestly, the picture you see of him there is a photograph I took, and they didn't ask for my permission to use it. I can tell you, that's my photograph. But on a more serious note, and it's true, I mean, I did take that photograph, but on a more serious note, the thing about declaration of assets, 3 months within coming into office, do they have something similar here in the Gambia?
Oh my blimey, I hope I wish we just have it, you know, right away. And yeah, we're in the 21st century, and you know, when we talk about democracy, you know, it's not a lip service. We should be practicing it, and people see you doing it. Sure. You know, we talked about the anti-corruption in Sierra Leone in the report. You know, I've been hearing this word for almost 2, 3, 4 years now in the Gambia. Sure. Anti-corruption commission, and we're very busy, you know, setting up other commissions and whatever. Exactly. But this is important. Sure. It is important that we have it in the country, you know, and if you wholeheartedly want to come out, accept appointments from presidents to serve in the country, sure. You know, I mean, it's a start from the president going down. Sure. You know, you want to serve the public. You know, there are 2 million Gambians that, you know, want development rapidly. You know, it's surprising going out in other countries, seeing what they're doing with 20, 30 million. You know, I was like, okay, with 2 million, what are we doing wrong? You know, that we're not getting it right to get some basic things. Sure. You know, and there's a lot of rampant. It's unfortunate that, you know, I'll take you back to the other story which talked about access to information. Sure. A lot of corruptions that we talk about without evidence, obviously, because we're not getting the information or the to back up. But people are accusing every day you wake up, people are talking about corruption, exactly. corruption. Yeah. You know, and it's high time that things like this come forward. We need it so badly as a country. Gambia, for example, I don't know any other country, but Gambia, we need the anti-corruption commission. You know, the last time I was at the airport, and I was like, you have to pay $20. Okay, that is equivalent to $1,000.
Well, you pay cash.
You know, you pay cash. Yeah. You pay cash. I'm not saying they are corrupt, but it encourages corruption.
It's a temptation.
You know, sure. It encourages. I've seen in this country where people go and forge receipts. Sure. And when you pay, you are given a receipt. Who knows? Maybe you can go and double that receipt and give it to you. Sure. Why not, you know, do it online or pay at where you pay your air ticket, and
it's deducted from the air ticket.
Deducted from the air ticket. Sure. But you go to the airport and pay cash. It encourages corruption. We should have the anti-corruption commission, honestly.
A good point to end on. And once again, Babakar, thank you for coming, and really enjoyed your interventions there. And I would just say in closing that it's ironic that Ernest Koroma is threatened with being taken to court and arrested is because he changed the law and gave the anti-corruption commission the power to not only investigate people, but to charge them and take them to court.
And he's the first victim.
And he's one of the first victims of it. But that brings us to the end of the program. And to our viewers, I have to say, thank you for watching. Apparently last week I said to our listeners, to our viewers, thank you for watching, and join us again next week for another edition of the Weekend Review. Thanks for watching. Goodbye.